This intro is actually made after I was sidetracked in my videos. The drugs kind of messed up my train of thought. It's happened before as well. Basically, to put things in perspective, you look at the timeline. Okay, my first martial artist challenge, May 2012. Also, I was calling out martial arts masters. That's when I first started doing it. That brought to their attention that I had reached a certain place in my martial arts training and that it was going to be very hard for them to beat me. Once I reached December 20th, 2013, okay, that's when the Top Martial Arts Challenge took place. And so less than 2 months, in early February 14th or something like that, around, early February, I took the oath. I kept that oath all the way until 2015 August. So I was going on 2 years. It's like a year and 6 months, something like that. All right, and roughly. And so I only really messed around with women. I only had sex, I only dated one female for a short period of time. Didn't have a whole lot of sex, to make a long story short. I'm not going to really go into detail, but, we'll say less than 5 times. Same person. So then, I make another oath December 2015. So since the second oath, in a few months, in December, around Christmas time, it'll be 1 year. So when you look at it, all the way from February 2014, so basically what had happened is I messed around with one female. The only reason I'm even telling this stuff, because not really anyone's business, other than you need to understand how dirty females have done me. They basically brought my ex-fiance into my, not ex-fiance, excuse me, one of my ex-girlfriends from long ago. She's one of the people who did the interviews. I messed around with her, okay? That was one time. And before her, it'd been like, I think the last person before her was in 2013. Okay, earlier in the year, like a beginning, like May or March or something, right? So between March 2013 and all the way here, over 3 years, those 2 females, barely messed with them at all, And this isn't like a record for celibacy, but the point is that during the course of my Top Martial Arts Challenge, and obviously during the course of most of my life, I've been thoroughly shunned by women. The last couple women weren't females that I settled for too much. They were attractive women. I wasn't madly in love with them, but, I was starting to feel something for the last one. So women have been shunning me the whole time. So here I am, with this glorious challenge, embarking on a very powerful spiritual journey. And women have removed themselves from the equation. It reminds me of the Trinity, right? The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Well, here I am on this intense martial arts journey, and women remove themselves from the equation. It's like naturally, when a man is close to God, it pushes women away. And that is reflected accurately in Christianity. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And of course, Jesus goes on a journey, right, with 12 men. So women naturally, there's something about them that is very worldly. And of course, we know from the most honest and accurate studies that they're the more conformist sex. And it's sad, because, I mean, this is going back to as far as I can remember, you know, since my ex-fiance left me, my heart, and that was like the last time she came back, I think was in 2010 or early 2011, and she just came back briefly to talk with me. We didn't mess around, you know. So I have been shunned by women heavily for the last 6 years. Heavily shunned by women. And they've purposely destroyed my love life since my top martial arts challenge. They went out of their way to say, you know what? We're going to destroy your love life. They went from planning women in my life, trying to get me to settle, you know, lightweight, to try to get me to settle extremely for very overweight and women who I wasn't attracted to. And all that was because I sought to secure my rightful position in society, to help the world. You see what I'm saying? It's like, look, this guy is trying to take his rightful place. We need to do whatever we can. They've tried hard to get me to go back to drinking. They've tried hard to get me to go back to smoking weed. They're like, whatever we can do to mess up his health, to destroy his pride, his self-esteem, whatever we can do, we need to do it. And they went out of their way, drugging me, fuming me, and all the stuff I have on record, this vandalism, all that was directed to that. So in my case, it's a very obvious case of them being concerned with me taking my rightful place in society. Because I had taken the IQ test at University of Phoenix. I scored high in the genius range. And so they said, you know what? This guy's smart enough to. He's a great enough fighter. We need to intensify. So with a lot of TIs, there's different reasons. You know, some of them are just drug addicts or something. They're easy targets. And then there's some people that these people really find it worthwhile to sabotage because they are challenging the internal organization of Babylon's system in America. And I, you know, of the people challenging it, I'm the bell that rings the loudest. Because when you look at these people on TV, or all these celebrities, all these people, you know, they're all controlled. There isn't really a need to gang stalk them because they're controlled. Unless some petty beef happens between them and their manager or something, you know, or they're trying to get them to sign a contract they didn't sign or something, you know, some petty Hollywood shit, you know, some materialistic shit, not some real shit. So yeah, you know, when you look at the timeline, you look how everything played out with women, with the drugging, with the trolling, you know, it really intensified after 2013. It really began in 2012 when I started challenging people, when I started, you know, and then when I made that first tournament challenge trying to get people to compete with me in 2012, May, you know, it really started to intensify. So I went back to martial arts, you know, in 2010 or so. I started training more and more intensely starting in 2011. And it is very consistent with that. It's not because I did martial arts. It's because I did martial arts better than everyone else. And they knew that they're like, why is this guy doing this? You know, why would he take it upon himself to train this hard unless he's going to go back? Because remember, 1997, I had won the tournament. So they started thinking, you know what? This guy's training harder than he did back then. So what's he going to do with this if not secure a place in society? And he's already, since 2009, I'm making videos, right? He's already talking about secret societies in the Illuminati, my first series being the Illuminati series. I finished, I believe, in 2012 on my Platinum Location channel. I had 200 videos in that series. When it comes to proving definitively that it wasn't about helping me or trying to get me to take my medicine, quote unquote, really to take the psych drugs they're trying to poison me with, that have changed over the years, there's a laundry list of reasons why that makes no sense. One of the most obvious is the persistent attempts by these people. Several different martial arts schools have tried hard to get me to train in their gyms, dojos, and schools. you know, and several individuals as well. That's not even really what is the dead giveaway. It's not the smoking gun. The smoking gun came when the whole time that they were setting me up to go to the psych ward, before, during, while I was in the psych ward and outpatient, people were bringing up the martial arts. You know, they would talk about things like rank. They would talk in terms of putting me underneath them. I mean, the signs that they're trying to put me underneath them were very obvious. They weren't even trying to hide it. It was just extremely straightforward. I've had people at University of Phoenix, a black guy there who was in the military, say that, you know, he was talking about something, I forget what it was, but he said, unless you don't trust, you know, your elders or these older people. So he was trying to make it seem like, well, you know, you need to listen to these older people. There's been a lot of attempts. Some of my early videos were about why you shouldn't listen to these older people, because they've sold out. This has been a consistent message for at least 5 years in my videos, at least starting since 2011. Because the whole time these people were trying to pull rank, if you will. You know, say that, oh, I'm older, or I've been doing this longer, or whatever. And of course, they were just doing it to get me under the control of the New World Order. There was a time in the English class, the English teacher, he was like, one of my English classes, he said, you know, he was mocking martial arts. It was one of my earlier classes at Fremont campus. He said, he was basically saying martial arts is just, doesn't mean anything, the Tai Chi and stuff. He said something about waving your hands. He's like, oh, you wave your hands in a special way to calm yourself down, you know, even though I didn't do it in class, right? He was trying to mock that idea. He's saying the same thing can happen if you wave your hands in any way and take a deep breath. Because in martial arts, you know, in Tai Chi and Shaolin Kung Fu, when you're doing the breathing exercises and you're balancing your chi, if you will, you know, you kind of raise your hands in a certain way and you kind of bring them down, and he was kind of mocking that. So there was a lot of references to me doing martial arts early on and their mockery of it. Because through martial arts, whether you people want to admit it or not, you can get more respect than other people. You know, people go, wow. Like, think about what would Bruce Lee be if he wasn't for martial arts? Say Bruce Lee was the type of person they didn't want to become famous. You know, they would give him a hard time and sabotage him. They would say no, you know, they would do everything they could in their power to keep him from signing to Hollywood and so on, and, you know, being a movie star. So what they were trying to do, I mean, they showed signs early on. And there was a lot of feminist teachers early on that were angry at me because I guess they do a background check before you go into, you know, they had asked me for my email address and, you know, my different social media accounts and stuff like that. Something that later on would become more of a common practice, because I was back in 2010 when I was talking to my admissions counselor. And later on, you know, it would come out in the news that, oh, more and more jobs are asking people for these sorts of things, their social media accounts and even their passwords and so on, to do more extensive and effective background checks. So they had known a lot of my correspondence with women and talking bad about feminists and being a very firm Christian, a very devout Christian, especially when it comes to arguing with people about these things. You know, it was a very strong Christian perspective. So they were mad that I was a Christian. You know, they were mad that I was a rising star in the martial arts world who, if left unchecked, would get more respect in society than anyone from that school. You know, any teacher, the president from that school, you know, he'd just be another rich guy. You know, I mean, is there any rich person today who's more respected than Bruce Lee by the masses? Of course not. So they would just be the bitter people trying to manipulate the world. I would be the guy with all the respect. They didn't want that. They had dedicated their, what is a school really, especially a private school or a for-profit school? You know, these are entities, some of them lean left, some of them lean right, that are trying to affect people's thinking so that when they leave, they carry that philosophy with them and impress it on society. So they're changing society by, you know, practicing a form of mind control, if you will, indoctrination, you know, indoctrinating young adults and what have you. Sometimes older ones, depending on the school and, you know, and the makeup of it and what have you. And so they then go on to society, quote unquote, educated, usually with a new philosophy. You know, they enlighten them. They've opened their eyes to some things, you know, so to speak. That's the idea, at least. And they then go into society. In all cultures, people respect their elders. And I'm going to have to make this video after I take out this stuff from my mouth. But basically, I'm going to say that, you know, there's that aspect as well. And there's a lot of things going on that make it complicated. You know, I say African martial arts is central, but you don't have to be a martial artist to be a man of respect. I think that goes without saying. And, you know, when it comes to fighting for honor, specifically fighting for honor, and maintaining honor, martial arts was a part of it, and people listened to their elders. Now, on the same token, I'm going to talk about how it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to listen to my elders because of what is going on. But I think that it is the right thing to do to highlight that part of this as well. And that my insults were aimed at the enemies of God and not at the older people in my tribe and people who aren't the enemies of God. I have an oath to never take my videos down, and I take it more seriously than my oath of celibacy. An oath to never submit to psychiatry that I take more seriously than my oath of celibacy. None of these oaths will be broken. But perhaps the oath I take the most serious is my oath to secure my rightful place as the top martial artist, which will also secure the eternal struggle against evil by uncontrolled opposition. There isn't a single logical mind that doesn't realize that I would beat Bruce Lee in a fight, and I would beat him at warfare. I'm not concerned with the fight part. I'm concerned with the actual combat. With that being said, there is a natural order of elders as people age, and for a lot of logical reasons, they are given their respect. And they probably care about their place in society more than I do. However, I have a special place among ancestors as a great warrior. Jesus is said to have died around age 33. That is younger than I am now. So it is more complicated than saying, well, you respect your elders. At the same time, I do respect my elders. I just don't agree with them. And I am not, directly under their control. or a part of their culture. I transcend everything, including Igbo culture. And I'm sorry if that offends any well-meaning people. But this is how it is, and this is how it must be. Nothing will change my course of action. And as I am mixed with white, and I have belonged to no group, no one has been helping me out, it would only show the New World Order's hypocrisy and lack of sense for them to punish the Igbos. For them to do that would be to punish themselves and have everyone eternally questioning their judgment. So I'm not worried about it in the slightest. With all the mistakes they've made, I doubt they're that stupid to make that one. They're too concerned with their power to make that mistake. On that note, I will continue the war. I'll continue doing things exactly how I am doing them. And I will continue training. My enemies underestimate things like my kicks because of YouTube's lack of proper playback. It's fine. Wherever you think I am deficient, I'm glad you think that. Wherever you think I am vulnerable, you will find out the hard way that I am not. I have patiently waited for 3 years to be up. It's been over 3 years since my 2012 challenge. In fact, it's been over 4. But the challenge that I am concerned with is the one that has over 500,000 people, mostly in America, and disproportionately martial arts, aware. It has been said that there is more martial arts schools in America than China, Japan, and Korea put together. I've brought up many times that this is the most diverse martial arts nation on the planet. I may very well be the top martial artist on earth. Certainly I've done what no martial artist on earth has ever done, but my concern is not there. Especially because psychiatrists went out of their way to try to play me out as having delusions, and they might try to claim that I have delusions of grandeur on behalf of the state, as they have historically done with black people. So I will leave it up to the honor and insight of future generations to state what perhaps is painfully obvious. And I will only claim that which could not possibly be denied. Do your elders know a lot of things that can help you out? Yeah. Are most of them compromised? Absolutely. Does that mean that you should just completely hate them? Not necessarily. It's a very complex issue. Your people are your people. You've got to have a certain love for them, even if they are doing the wrong thing. But don't do the wrong thing with them. The untold story of the Igbo tribe is the story of their generosity and friendliness to others. One of the most cordial, polite people on the planet is the Igbos. One of these most humble and caring people. Many people used to come up to me and say Nigerians are so nice, they're so generous, they're always cooking for you, and they like to cook. And we live on a planet where many people are nice people that mean well. But then there are certain philosophies and groups of thought that want to throw fuels on the fire, so to speak, take little differences and make them bigger. They pretend like they are the ones who are trying to help humanity more often than not. And they sabotage those people whose deeds make their deeds pale in comparison. Beware of the wolves in sheep's clothes. The main danger of the military-industrial complex and the secret societies is the fact that they are wolves in sheep's clothes more often than not. It's more, you have to do more than just say, don't trust anyone. You have to understand how far people will go to gain your trust and or put themselves above you and put you under their control. Always remember the difference between giving people respect and doing what they say. They will try to make you confused about the two. Even when I was younger, my own father would do such a thing, you know. He'd say, well, why don't you ever take my advice? And he would make it seem that it was disrespectful that I didn't. Right or wrong, we are our own men and women. We must always do what we think is right first and foremost. And never be confused by people who set the stage to make it look like they know better or that they know what you should do better than you know. And then give you that advice. And then go out of their way to make it seem like you should have listened to them and make your loss greater than it would have naturally been had they not interfered in the first place. I'm not saying all advice is bad, but this is a trend I've noticed in my life and in the world in general. Extremely often, more often than you think. With the trolls and the traitors to God, it is consistent. They harass me with false offers, Trojan horses, trying to get me to accept them, and meaningless and or useless advice. Long ago, it came to the point where they knew I wasn't going to listen to them, and so now they just harass me with these things. You must persevere. You must show longevity and endurance. Spiritual stamina, if you will. Moral will. Expand your moral capacity through training yourself to be a higher moral being. I believe that we are all destined and fated to do things. How else could Revelation tell the tale of how humanity meets judgment? No matter what you do, your destiny is there. And your destiny considers, it is part of your destiny to either try hard or not to try hard. If you don't try hard, you weren't meant to try hard. If you listen to people such as myself, you get inspired, well, that was fated as well. It's all fated. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try hard. But regardless what I say and whether or not you listen, your destiny is still the same. But don't confuse that with the struggle that you must take. If it is your destiny to be a spiritual bottom feeder, it is because you did not find it in your soul. God knew you would not find it in your soul. We make our own destiny, but it is also written already. Those people who come across my videos, well, they were meant to come across my videos. That was part of the path that was set for them already. And don't let that confuse you. I know it does seem kind of confusing. But that's how it is. The future is already written. It is time for many of you to realize your destiny and to either take my advice as someone you know is uncontrolled. So, as I was thinking out loud, pretty drugged for my drinks, I started thinking, I haven't clarified it in enough videos. So let me clarify it again. If I do not emphasize and highlight my greatness, who will? One or two people in my comments? Once in a long time? I mean, who's even going to take the time to notice it when they're too busy in denial and trying to sabotage me? Not too many of the opposition view and the gang stalkers take the time to wonder why and to see how right I am. Who's going to tell the story of how great of a martial artist I was, even on drugs, if I didn't? Before you start crying about a lack of humility, you need to see that I am someone who is the most aware about a very profound truth that could have a very positive impact on reality. And that is that the top martial artist in American history has done years and years, 2 decades plus of research that would extremely help and advance society in the places it needs to advance the most. Just like I've studied different martial arts systems and martial arts masters and competitors to see their weakness and understand why I'm better, I've studied society as a whole, and I see what we need to do to get to a place where we can truly be proud of ourselves, our philosophies, and the social systems that affect us all so dramatically. I have always been right to highlight my greatness. Who's going to do it? You? The gang stalkers? Those among my friends and family who have betrayed me? The competition? If I didn't go to such great lengths to tell my story, it would have never been told. If I didn't publish my martial arts combos and my challenge, no one would ever know that I was the best. And even as it is, it's going to take a lot of work, tactics from a great tactician, networking, and maneuvering to get the message out to the point where it is out when I'm gone. So ask yourselves, knowing that I will never have my rightful place in society, is it a bad idea to make sure that I have secured it after I'm gone? No. Because people need me as a role model. Name one person that is a celebrity or a role model today that is a greater role model than I am. Who, the president? Some actor or singer? Are you kidding me? There is none. I'm not going to break down some of the greater role models in society. That's not what this video is about. But I assure you that the greatest role model out there pales in comparison. If people accepted my philosophy, they would be better off than any other philosophy. I show extreme selfishness in the face of adversity, hindrance, sabotage, and covert drugging. In the last, wow, it's been a long time. I think since February 2014, right? Now this will kind of put things into perspective for you. My martial arts challenge was in December 20th, 2013. In less than 2 months, I made an oath of celibacy that I broke. And that's why it's so important to keep all these other oaths, especially the renewed oath where it was to make up for the old. And I didn't cover that up. I could have lied. It doesn't make me look too great, but I told you I will tell you the truth. Just like when I said I was drugged. You know, some people, no matter what the reason, they lose respect for someone who is sexually assaulted, even if they were the son of God or something, because they don't understand deeper things like this. You know? I would give you an example from a movie, or TV series rather, but that will lose some of you. You won't truly grasp it. But I'll put this out there. Say somebody was writing for their cause, you know, super hard. They were imprisoned. The guards raped them, trying to get them to snitch, trying to get them to break. You know, they set them up to be beaten, raped every day. Would you then turn around and say, you know what? I don't respect him because he's basically a prison bitch or something. How stupid would you be to say that? And I'll leave it there. Also reminds me of the Bible. Matthew 5:10. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. 11. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. 12. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven, for in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Let's not forget the prophets lived in a pagan land. It is quite possible that some things that were never revealed were sexual abuse of the prophets. I mean, by God, they had a very anti-gay religion in a land swelling and overflowing with homosexuals, bisexuals, and cross-dressing, you know, Greek play performing sissies. In a time where there were no rape kits or DNA tests, you better believe that some of the prophets were sexually abused. You better believe that. So as you can see, even if I was cocky, it is still in the best interest of all humanity for me to highlight these things. All the opposition is concerned with is playing their part in the New World Order, sticking up for someone their race, trying to make it seem that someone who's the same race as them is better, or someone in the same political group, or perhaps they're a martial artist themselves, worrying about their position in society and reaping the rewards, while I am thinking long-term after my death. I don't think I need to explain whose motives are more honorable, virtuous, and true. I've been very dignified relative to everything that is happening. And let's not forget I'm covertly drugged. So for all of you people who want to say, well, get over yourselves. Am I the one who needs to get over themselves? Or are you? You're the selfish one siding with the New World Order. I'm the selfless one highlighting my greatness so that others may be inspired and not sell their soul to Babylon.